Okay, let's dive right into this explainer where we're going to demystify one of the absolute most foundational algorithms in supervised machine learning. Whether you're an aspiring data scientist or honestly just someone curious about how artificial intelligence makes decisions behind the scenes, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're breaking down logistic regression. By the end of this, you're going to understand exactly how machines take in raw data and output a clear, decisive classification. We've got a really clear roadmap for our analysis today. We're going to start with a quick welcome to classification, properly meet logistic regression, unpack the sigmoid function, and talk about training your model. Then we'll wrap up with real-world applications and, crucially, the ethical AI and bias guardrails you need when deploying these models. Let's get to it. So to start off, we really need to understand the exact problem we're trying to solve here. In machine learning, we often want the computer to make a definitive choice for us. Just imagine deciding whether an incoming email should hit your inbox or if it's junk, spam or not spam. Or picture a bank evaluating a loan applicant to figure out if they're a high risk or a low risk. These aren't just abstract concepts, right? They're binary decisions happening millions of times a second in the background of our daily lives. And that brilliantly illustrates the first major distinction in supervised learning. It really all comes down to the type of output we want. On one side, you have regression. You use this when you want to predict a continuous number, like, say, forecasting exactly how many dollars a stock will be worth tomorrow. But on the other side, we have classification. This is for predicting fixed categorical outcomes: spam or not spam, cat or dog, fraud or legitimate. Think about looking at historical loan data. You'd see data points for a customer's income and their savings, and then a final label indicating their risk level is either low or high. Our goal here isn't to predict a specific dollar amount for their future bank balance. No. Instead, we want to use those independent features, the income and the savings, to classify a totally new, unseen customer into one of those distinct categories. We want the machine to learn the boundary that separates the low-risk folks from the high-risk ones. Now, here comes a bit of a plot twist. What's really funny about this algorithm is its name. Despite having the word regression right there in the title, logistic regression is fundamentally a classification tool. It's a historical naming quirk that honestly trips up a ton of beginners. But don't let it fool you. It's built from the ground up to separate data into categories, not to draw a straight line through a bunch of continuous numbers. So, how does it actually pull this off? Well, instead of predicting a straight number like standard linear regression does, logistic regression calculates something called the log odds, or sometimes you'll hear it called the logit. Simply put, this is the logarithm of the ratio of the probability of an event occurring versus the probability of it not occurring. Essentially, the algorithm takes a standard linear equation and transforms it into a ratio of probabilities between our two classes. Statistically speaking, it's asking, what are the odds that this instance belongs to class A rather than class B? But wait, that brings us to a huge mechanical problem. Standard linear models, they can shoot off to negative infinity or positive infinity. If you just draw a straight line through your data, you might get a prediction of, negative 42 or positive 1,000. So the absolutely crucial point here is that we cannot use raw numbers when we're trying to predict a probability. We need a mathematical mechanism to compress our model's predictions into a valid percentage, strictly bounded between 0 and 1. Enter the sigmoid function. Let's see how this builds into the core engine of the algorithm. I like to think of this as our probability dimmer switch. The sigmoid function is this beautifully elegant S-shaped mathematical curve. Whatever crazy number you feed into it, no matter how massively positive or deeply negative, the sigmoid function gracefully squashes it down, so the output is strictly between 0 and 1. Think of this S-shaped curve not as a harsh on-off switch, but like a dimmer switch. It smoothly translates our model's raw calculations into a clear, understandable probability score. If the model outputs 0.85, boom, it's telling us it's 85% confident this data point belongs to the positive class. Once we have that probability score between 0 and 1, we still have to make a final decision. We do this by applying a decision threshold. Most commonly, this is set right down the middle at 0.5, meaning if the model scores an applicant at 0.51, they're classified into one group, say high risk. But if they score just slightly lower at 0.49, they go to the other group, low risk. You can totally adjust this threshold depending on how cautious you want to be, but 0.5 is the classic dividing line. All right, so we get the math of how it predicts, but how does the model actually figure out the right mathematical weights to apply to someone's income or savings in the first place? Like, how does it learn? Well, it learns through an iterative process, commonly utilizing something called batch learning. First, the algorithm initializes its internal weights, usually putting them near 0. Then it looks at the training data and calculates an output probability for each instance. Third, it measures the difference between its guess and the actual correct label in the historical data using a loss function. Finally, it calculates the gradient and updates those internal weights to minimize the error. It just does this over and over, gently tweaking the knobs until its predictions align as closely as possible with reality. But hey, major beginner tip here. Do not let the model train forever. If you do, it's just going to memorize the data perfectly, including all the random noise, and it will perform terribly in the real world. We call this overfitting. To stop this, we use a regularization technique called early stopping. It's exactly what it sounds like, halting the training process the moment misclassifications on a validation set stop decreasing. It keeps your model generalized and robust. Let's step out of the pure math for a second and look at how these probability estimates actually shape our daily lives. You might be surprised by just how often you interact with logistic regression without even realizing it. Because this algorithm is incredibly fast, highly interpretable, and wonderfully effective for binary problems, organizations across the globe rely on it. In finance, they use it to spot fraudulent credit card transactions in milliseconds. In healthcare, it's assisting doctors in diagnosing whether a tumor in a medical scan is malignant or benign. Your email provider uses it to keep spam out of your inbox, and meteorologists even use it to predict the probability of rain. It is literally the workhorse of modern predictive analytics. But here's where we really need to hit pause. Because for all its mathematical elegance, a supervised machine learning model is completely at the mercy of the data it's fed. It doesn't have common sense, you know? It only knows the past it was trained on. Listen to this staggering metric. Research has repeatedly shown that AI systems, like certain facial recognition models, misclassify women and people of color at rates up to 30% higher than white men. Why? Because the historical data they were trained on was horribly unbalanced. If our historical training data contains human prejudices or systemic imbalances, our algorithm isn't going to fix them. It's just going to automate and amplify that discrimination at scale. And this inequity sneaks into AI systems at a few distinct stages. First, it starts with data bias, using unrepresentative data sets. Then comes algorithmic bias, which is about how the model is designed or the specific metrics chosen to evaluate it. And finally, human bias in deployment. That's when the final model is misapplied or its predictions are trusted blindly without any human oversight. Best practices demand that we acknowledge these limitations head-on. Logistic regression and similar models require massive amounts of accurately labeled data. They're prone to overfitting, they perpetuate noise, and sometimes they obscure accountability in a black box, making it super hard to explain why a decision was actually made. This is exactly why adhering to emerging frameworks like the EU AI Act and the NIST AI Risk Management Framework is absolutely vital to ensuring we build fairness-conscious algorithms while protecting privacy. And that brings us to the end of our explainer. As you continue your journey into machine learning, whether you're actively coding these models or just being impacted by them in your daily life, I want you to remember this. While the math of logistic regression, the weights, the log odds, the sigmoid curve, is entirely objective, the data it learns from never is. The future of AI isn't just about better algorithms, it's about better, fairer data. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.